This episode of Bonfireside Chat, Appendix, is brought to you by listeners like you. If you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, you too can support this podcasting network. A couple of bucks a month makes a huge difference. Good night and good luck, and continue listening on. And I want to say hi to all my friends who are listening, and I want to say thank you to all our Patreon backers.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I am Vivian.
And this is Bonfireside Chat Appendix, where we read your responses to the gutter.
Yeah, thank you so much for sticking around, Vivian.
Yeah, no problem. I am always down to do a little gutter diving.
DTP. Down to podcast.
Boom!
We're going to find some hot East Coast singles that are DTP.
Oh, man. So, just a little bit of a disclaimer here. We are no less wrong this week than we are most weeks. However, we're not going to have a follow-up section because the Gutter and Black Gulch are very divisive, and we got a lot of response about these two areas. So I have saved all of your corrections and outrage about the things that we said in error, and they will come back at a later time. Do not worry. But this is going to be all Gutter all the time, with a little bit of Black Gulch thrown in. And we're going to begin with some bite-sized responses from Facebook that I am calling shorties.
Yep. Got shorties in the house.
Yeah.
Do you want to get us started with shorties, or who's going to start the first shorty?
I don't know. You spoke first after I said shorties. So
okay. I will start the first shorty. Chad Everett Bailey says via Facebook, more like the Green Gulch. Am I right?
You are. Indeed, right.
Indeed you are. Moving on.
Ludwig Westman, there we go. Whoops, over Germanified, you guys. Sorry. Via Facebook says, I think that the Black Gulch was way too short. It had potential to be the new Tower of Latria for me, but ended up being a bum rush for 30 seconds to the boss.
Yeah.
I don't know about Latria. The heartbeat kind of thing, that motif is pretty powerful throughout. But
insofar as it's actually creepy for a Souls level, I would kind of agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is spooky. It is like I like that it is short because it's something, like I said, it's something that the Souls games haven't really done before. Like, it's so dense in such a small geographic area. But I understand what you mean. Like, if you just wanted to spend more time with this kind of atmosphere, because it is a unique atmosphere in Dark Souls 2. Like, this kind of thing doesn't really come up again. So,
yeah.
So Alex Ike on Facebook offers the following long-winded and detailed response to, I suppose, the Gutter and Black Gulch. He says the pit here. Fuck poison statues. And that would be it.
And then he drops the mic.
And then he drops the mic, which I don't have a microphone to drop. I couldn't effect there yet.
Don't drop your actual mic.
Wait a second here. There we go. I just rammed my microphone into the desk from the boom. So have fun with that, Gary.
I could barely hear it.
Okay.
So that's not a cue to do it again, so it makes it harder to edit.
That shock mount. Damn it!
Yeah, you did it way too gingerly. So, yeah.
It is also a very expensive microphone.
Yeah,
look at me, I'm a podcaster.
Just probably gingerly enough.
Yeah. Brian Russell Wade says via the Facebook page, all I have to say about the whole area is that on my first playthrough, that fucking heartbeat stressed me out so much, I had to put the game down for a night. Yeah.
Yeah. Omnipresent gloom,
yeah.
Which is a nice little touch.
Again, that idea of the fake out, right? Like, we were expecting to go into a big room full of organs in Sinner's Rise, and we never quite found the room full of organs. So I'm not quite sure where the heartbeat comes from here, aside from those Hugo ventricle vessels. Yeah.
It's just or just the Rotten's heart from way down deep. Yeah. And finally, Jesse Hamill says via Facebook, I tend to agree with the idea that the Hollows were trying to build their way out. The Rotten is super interesting too. Not really sure what to make of the arm dropping the Lockstone, however. I think that we both, in the main episode, we're with you on that for the most part. And what to make out of it. I think it's Varos. May bear out not to be true, but I think we'll know soon enough.
Yeah.
So
it is as satisfying as any answer. So yeah.
For the time being. But yeah, thank you everybody for your rapid responses. And here are kind of the little bit longer ones through various methods or means rather.
Yeah. So I think this is you, Viv.
Yeah, okay. So this is Gustavo via the contact form. Some errata first. I do not live on a boat. I am an active duty.
Just in general.
Okay, everybody, whenever you write in, start with, do you live on a boat or not?
Yeah, yay or nay.
Go ahead.
I am an active duty coastie, and I was stationed on board a Coast Guard cutter. I am literally in the middle of moving to the West Coast. I may have been drunk when I wrote that message.
So he's referring to last week. I posited that he may or may not live on a boat because of the cues in his message about living on a boat. Yeah, we did. We just camped out on boat life. We had a lot of material. 20 minutes or so. But he's a coastman.
Mm-hmm. He says, anyway, into the gutter. I technically went to the gutter first, then the grave of saints, but the exploding undead ruined my day. Wait, what?
Yeah. If you ladder down, you can miss the grave of saints.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, sorry, that's my bad. Once I reached the gutter proper, I was in love with its grotesque, overbearing, dark environment, slowly walking with a torch in one hand and my magic staff in the other, and getting scared by giant, disfigured dogs and exploding undead. The only part that I didn't like was the descent to the gulch. I still haven't unlocked that bonfire. The gulch was tense, but not as good as the gutter. Radioactive green moss, spit-happy statues, and Manus's minute hands that jump out of combustible black liquid to munch on humanities. The rotten was for me the hardest old one. I couldn't figure out how to dodge or block his attacks. Eventually I decided to just go full mage on him, finally killing him. Afterwards I made a magic mace and never ever used a sword again. So that's interesting. I found him to be one of the easier bosses, kind of.
Yeah, Dark Souls finds your weaknesses.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Different people have different. It's always surprising to me what's difficult and what's not for people. Mm-hmm. He hits pretty hard. So if you're a fairly squishy mage, and he's getting you, I could see it.
Yeah, for sure. The Manus connection on those hands, I'm sure it's pretty weak, but visually it's kind of the same. Like the Manus hands in Dark Souls 1, the idea that they have those suckers, and here you have those sunflower, radial, teeth kind of things. Again, I will never stop talking about how unsettling these guys are. But
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep. Aaron says via the contact form, the real MVP of the gutter is the torch. It sounds like people don't bother with it much, but its light is the most powerful tool for your chosen undead. I remember running low on torch fuel during my first playthrough and cautiously scouting and backtracking to conserve my precious light. I ran out just as I approached the neon green fluid stains of the Black Gulch, replacing one worry with another. The poison-spitting statues are one of the most unsettling features of the game because they raise so many questions about what they are and who made them, why the rotten seem so smitten with them, and why they are so casually left around the town hole in the ground. Sorry, the town's hole in the ground in Majula. It is a mystery. The municipal hole in the ground.
Yeah, the pit.
Yeah,
y'all fall in the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You primarily agreed. I definitely use the torch for this area. I don't have to now that I kind of know the way through it. My second time through any area in Dark Souls, like more or less figure out how to speedrun it. But I like using it. Like I like the proper way of doing it a little bit more. Yeah. And I like the idea of the neon green fluid stains. That is a great fluid stains is a great.
It's an episode of Dateline.
Yeah, like that. Exactly. It's not actually green. It's just there's a black light, kicking black light above the black light gulch. And if you go down in New Game +7 and kill both the giants, you find their Bitch and Marley poster.
Yeah.
Behind them.
And New Game +10, it's a rave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So regarding the proximity to Majula, I can't remember. Did you guys kind of settle on the idea that the mansion belongs to Aldea or to Pharaoh's? Because my read on it was kind of that the mansion might have been Pharaoh's house.
The reason why I thought it was Aldea's was because of the Lord Vessel in the basement.
Yeah.
And had to do with that. And like, some scholar lived there, giant books and stuff in there. Pharos would make a kind of sense too, but I had Pharos, his kind of home base being the doors of Pharos. But it could be, you can kind of like make a path from the doors of Pharos to the mansion, to the Grave of Saints, to the, the gutter, to the Black Gulch, and have him land there as well.
I don't see a lot of reason that either Pharos couldn't have preceded all of that, and it could have been Pharos' house than Aldea's, or that he couldn't have been in cahoots with everybody. With Aldea. Like, I imagine, like Bruce Banner and Tony Stark, they could have had a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no, outside of my fan fiction, there's nothing to back that. But,
I wrote a story about Aldea and Reed Richards conspiring.
Let's hope that Aldea doesn't get his hands on a Reed Richards class cosmically irradiated hero. We'll be fucked. It'd be like when those stretchy undead show up in Code Veronica.
The Bandersnatches?
Yeah, the Bandersnatches.
Yeah, God, I love those things.
Yeah. Huh. Even though when we talked about other Resident Evil games to do for WoF, that would be an interesting thing to do, because that is an interesting Resident Evil game.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily like what choice we'll make when we do a next Resident Evil game, or I do, but I don't necessarily want to reveal it.
Yeah,
but that would be an interesting one to do, because it is in a weird spot. Like, it is the generational, as the last one before 4.
Yeah, there's a lot of Resident Evil chat between Revelations, and then somebody on the WoF page asked if we did Outbreak.
Yeah, what we thought of Outbreak and everything.
Yeah. And it just makes me wish that I could beat Waxworks so I could move on in X rank.
Yeah, and eventually get to Alone in the Dark, so you can eventually get to Resident Evil.
God, I'm hoping to make some headway on vacation, but
yeah, take a nice Waxworks vacation.
The worst.
Yeah, Alone in the Dark is hard to play too, man. Like, it is better, but that is a hard game.
I've made headway into Alone in the Dark.
Okay.
Like, I can wrap my head around the ways in which Alone in the Dark is broken.
Yeah, it is an unfriendly experience.
Yeah.
Moving on, Jfish says via contact, as I glimpsed the broken wooden platforms and dimly lit areas of the gutter, my ass clenched and went beyond diamond creating type pressures as I recalled the controller breaking fits I experienced in Blighttown. I'm pretty sure I had to dump out before tackling the first drop by the poisoned statues. Some of these turns of phrase, man.
Yeah, I didn't edit that out because I wasn't sure if it was specifically referring to poop. But
yeah, don't edit it out. Like, I love this. Like, I was trying to figure out exactly. It's very visceral.
Yeah.
As I boldly pushed forward, I realized that it wasn't nearly as tough as its Dark Souls doppelganger. This is certainly one of the few areas that requires a torch upon first exploration until you learn your favorite route through the zone. I remember that the most significant oh shit moment I had in the gutter/gulch zone was when I first glimpsed the absurd collection of statues that littered the Black Gulch, and thinking that rolling alone would likely be insufficient to navigate the sadistic creation. It looked like Slimer from the Ghostbusters had a fucking party in this space. You know what we forgot to mention is in the gutter, that room that is just literally filled with these things.
Oh, yeah.
Like the treasure, but there's that room where there's just like, it's like a storage room for them, and there are at least 40 of them.
Yeah. We also forgot to mention the one that is hanging from a noose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's super creepy.
That's how the room with Hobo's armor is, too. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's basically just like a dumping ground for leftover poison statue.
Yeah. It's like those statues in Sen's Fortress, like where they store all of their statues of the guy holding out his palms.
Yeah.
Just literally statue upon statue.
The surplus astrolabes and dukes.
Yeah. Just like how many astrolabes one person needs.
Until we answer the questions of the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't call attention to it, but it is kind of disturbing how they go from being strategically placed in the gutter to just now they're every fucking where in Black Gulch.
Yeah.
You know, aside from the junk room where they're every fucking where, but like that is kind of a subtle shift in tone. I don't know. I have an
incident. I mean, it very well could. So if you think about Pharos and him designing traps in Grave of the Saints, as he moves down and kind of loses his mind, he could very well be. You know, imagine him slowly like finding the soul, slowly transforming as he moves down, and kind of having an order in them, and then eventually just making them compulsively until they're just everywhere.
Yeah, and you know, it's a little bit like, I don't know, trigger warning or whatever. I have a weird relationship with obsession. So, like, it is strangely resonant for me to, like, notice that, kind of as we're piecing this together through conversation and me slowly getting quieter and quieter.
Yeah. Well, don't make any poison statues.
Okay,
You'll
cool.
be okay. Yeah.
I will write
When
this.
you find any
one,
glowing
it's
souls, don't pick them up.
I'll write this on an index card and just put it everywhere.
Yeah. And file it alphabetically with your other ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Who is next?
I believe it's Vivian.
That would be me, yeah. This is Tanner via the contact form. When I first stumbled upon the dark precipice of the gutter, my mind was instantly screaming, "The abyss! Oh dear God, no!" When the area name text revealed itself, I laughed a genuine but fairly nervous laugh. The name was hilarious, and the implications were grim. All told, I was pretty nonplussed by the area. The encounters felt satisfying if a tad repetitive, but the creepy feeling I got from raiding what were essentially homes was pretty effective. It felt more like the early stages of the Valley of Defilement than Blighttown. The other encounter I feel redeemed this area for me was the entirely hidden fight with the two giants. Seeing those guys down here on my second playthrough had me questioning my already shaky lore thread.
Yeah. So it's interesting because this, because of its close relationship with the Valley of Defilement and Blighttown, it has this weird distinction of being part of a canon of, shitbergs, I guess. As opposed to
New Hampshire shitbergs.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to, like most of the other places where the connections are just a smidge more loose, right? Like the connection between like Latria and Dukes or, Lost Izalith and, Stonefang Tunnel. Like just all throughout, there's just like kind of this loose kind of connection. Whereas, these ones, I don't know why, but the connection seems a lot more close, right? A lot more tightly wound.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's playing off meta knowledge. Like, the developers know how hated those areas are.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so like,
and we said in the Valley of Defilement episode, like leading up to this, like they're going to take this and make it something different than what we expect.
Yeah.
Like we called it ahead of time.
Yeah. The same way, they haven't had their, Solaire level bro wearing a spiked helmet and standing by a ledge yet. But someday they'll do that, and he'll get kicked off a ledge, sadly. But yeah, like this very much plays into the meta knowledge, like of being a Souls veteran. The expectations are intentional and part of, part of it.
Yeah.
So.
So Dylan, this is me.
Good.
Dylan says via contact, the first time I entered the gutter and saw a volley of poison balls shoot towards me, I leapt back, both in-game and out. I sprinted backwards and waited, expecting either an army of spitting scorpion beasts or mini hydras. But after a few moments, nothing came out. Taking a breath, I walked back in and realized I had found Blighttown 2.0. Going through the gutter for the first time was incredible. The whole time I was on edge, jumping between ramshackle towers of wood, rolling like crazy to avoid the poison flying every which way, and swinging my swords like a madman whenever some hollow or weird lizard dog approached me out of nowhere. After I beat the game, I went back down to have a better look around, grabbing a torch and lighting all the sconces. I immediately realized how the hollows are nearly the same color as the wood, and that plus the poison-spitting statues led me to drop a bonfire-side chat-style Vietnam War reference / thesis for the area. Charlie is just not in the trees. Charlie is the trees. I think, okay, so the first time we made the first time I'm going to own this entirely because of my my childhood growing up watching Vietnam movies. The first time I made that.
Of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cole is Vietnamese. He may not sound like it.
Yeah, or look like it.
Yeah, or look like it.
On the rough streets of Da Nang.
Yeah.
No, just growing up watching Platoon and whatnot. No, it was about the Dark Root Garden and saying that Charlie is the trees in reference to the ambushing Ents that would come after you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's kind of true here a little bit, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Anytime we can draw comparisons to real world tragedy in our podcast about a video game series, I think it's probably a good thing to do.
You're probably the person I've encountered who is most sensitive about the Vietnam War, aside from somebody who's been there.
Oh, I just recognize that it's a thing. Like I do that too. Like I'm not. I say these. I compare things to things. I say I throw the word Holocaust around sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not innocent of it.
Yeah.
It's just like I try to be aware of like how it's probably offensive to somebody.
Yeah. Somebody out there. I don't know. Again, I'll just blame it on my unstuck in timeness.
Yeah, like you watched a lot of MASH.
I did.
That's not Vietnam, but like it gets you in the.
Well, I mean, it might as well be.
Yeah, like it gets you in the mindset of.
Yeah. I mean, just
wars of yesteryear.
You know what? Just watch the sniper episode of MASH and try not coming out of that a changed person.
Done and done.
Yeah.
I can't tell if you're being serious.
I think Kole is being serious. I am being flip.
Okay. Well, I was trying to figure Kole out.
The second you figure me out, I stop being relevant or stop, I lose whatever relevance I had. So
he's a Loki figure.
Yeah.
He's a Mr.
Trickster god of
the trickster god of podcasting.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I will not give you that title.
Nope, I will not even. I will not even self-give that. It's just a funny turn of phrase.
It is funny.
that might belong to somebody else, but not me. So.
Yep.
Yep.
Belongs to that dastardly Jesse Thorne.
He does dress kind of like a trickster god, doesn't he?
Yeah, and his mustache is like, one step of affectation away from being twirlable. Like, just waking up one more time with a little bit more crisis in his heart, and we'll be there.
Yeah, I hate myself too much to call myself a god of anything. So, continuing.
Who's up? I've lost track more in this episode than ever before.
That would be you, I believe.
I believe it's
all right. Yes. Nick, by contact, says, I felt pretty ho-hum about the gutter, outside of the torch getting its first bit of use. It was nice to have those lightable sconces, but this is probably the most time sconce has ever been said, like in this short of a period. Like, what a weird, I was trying to come up with a synonym for that earlier, and I was like, that's really not. Like, then that's a singular term.
A torchier?
Yeah, torchier. Light hole.
I thought you were talking about scones until just now. So.
Yeah, I keep reading it as scones too, and the idea of a lightable scone or lighting all the scones. Like, it just smells like baking bread. What if all of these areas that look like they really stink in Dark Souls really smell great? And we just don't know because it's a visual medium. It's like how Chicago, like the big river of shit that runs through the middle of Chicago smells like chocolate because of like the chocolate factory there.
Yep.
Having all those lightable sconces along the path in case you die and don't want to waste time on your torch just to do the same path again. But long term, they don't serve as much use as I only ever go through this place once. What was cool was when I first discovered the giant ant queen near the fog door, and my thoughts immediately brought me back to the fool's idol from Demons. I was convinced that this ant queen was going to fuck me over if I went through that fog door without killing her first. Interesting. But sadly, all my effort was for naught, as there was no boss or even trap to correspond to her at all. The Gulch, on the other hand, was really cool, both visually and from a gameplay standpoint. It's this nice balance of having a short level feel longer than it is by literally surrounding you with spitting statues. And trying to run through them was trying to run through a hallway of bullets that kill you at a moderate pace. I really
like
love the
Civil
puddle.
War.
Yeah, exactly. Like some war, like Vietnam.
Yeah.
I really, really love the puddle creeps and how you can set their puddles on fire with any fire weapons items. Those guys made the Gulch for me.
Can puddle creeps be the official name for those monsters? Because I really...
I mean, it's all wikis, so we can go edit that and then keep editing it back until we're banned.
The idea of the ant being like a fool's idol thing, that's interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and just the fact that the fog door is right after that.
Yeah.
If you're coming to this, like I don't remember the dirty Colossus having a particularly well telegraphed fog door. It was just a fog door, or the white mist or whatever they called it there.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they were maybe trolling us a little bit because they ought not to have fog doors in arbitrary places here. Like, is that is that real significant? Like, it's just there's no reason for it to be there, right?
And this game does some Fool's Idol stuff, too. Like, spoiler for later areas, but Earth and Geek, there's a really good example of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was going to say that, like, as much as I actually ended up really liking the Fool's Idol, I think that some people really cried bullshit on it. Mm-hmm. And you could see if it wasn't for what I was just about to make the same point you're making there, where, like, if it wasn't for that, you would think that maybe they just weren't going to do that again. Mm-hmm. But they are definitely doing it. Like, that ant, I really want that ant to have something to do with the DLC. Like, I want more from that ant. Like, we are putting so much expectation.
This ant story.
Yeah, in the ant's life.
On the most meager creature.
Yeah, like, or just the DLC. Like, we have such a lore expectation from this DLC. Like, it is not really fair to the people who are making it.
Well, Vivian, you had my favorite comment about the DLC announcement, which was that DLC really tied the lore together. He just like, how perfect is that? Like, as to what everybody's expectation was. Like a rug in the dude's living room. Like, we're just hoping that this one thing will cover up a pile of what might ultimately be shit.
I mean, I think Artorias of the Abyss really did in the first game too, and given the fact that, you know, won't get into some nerdy debate about whether they planned this and how big of assholes FromSoft is for doing this to us, but
everybody who has more money than you is an asshole.
Oh, sure, totally.
Okay,
but like, given the sense that they probably had an idea they were going to do this, or that they started working on this even during the normal development of the game. Yeah, like, I think it is almost a guarantee that we're going to get a lot of explanation for things that don't make any sense in a bad way.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Murph Murphy says via Facebook, I love the change of pace that the pit brings. Creeping in darkness or sans shield to get a little light. Such a great atmosphere of despair and fear. The only thing this area lacks is a boss. The Black Gulch is a bit of a miss for me. It's too short and too fast-paced. That wide one, that dank depression, that moist maw, the trashiest of trenches, the pit. Yeah. I see them all as one area, like title cards. You know, they're like loading screens. You know,
yeah.
Or fog doors. They may not mean anything, like we established with that ant.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So Jeff Degginger via Facebook says, the first time I went to the gutter, I was so happy that the lighting mechanic had a roll, like any sort of roll in general. I couldn't see. I had to lurk forward slowly and try and peer deep into the darkness. The stage breaking out from under you was freaky, especially when you fell into a family of hollows. The extra big dog-lion things were more of a challenge than expected. But on subsequent playthroughs, it feels like the annoying place with the dogs and bridges that I don't really think about too often. From a lore standpoint, I don't even understand what it's doing here, besides evoking flashbulb PTSD memories of Blighttown.
It was Christmas 1968. We thought we had everything won, but the Tet Offensive was right around the corner.
Get out of here.
Some folks are born made to raise flag. Who the red, white, blue?
Yeah. Anywho, yeah, I mean, like, we made our guess as to what that lore perspective may be. You can take or leave it, I think. There's not a lot to it.
But when the rotten comes to the door. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Alex Sconzo says, a great name.
Pretty close to sconces.
Yeah. Alex Sconces. Alex Lightpit says via Facebook, I thought that the gutter was significantly worse than Blighttown from a gameplay perspective, mainly being that Blighttown at least had a goal, whereas the gutter, you just sort of stumble around until you happen to find your way down to the gulch. In Blighttown, you were heading down and could clearly see why. You can always look down and see the swamp or the spider nest below. The gutter doesn't really have any of that, and I think it is worse off for it.
That comforting giant spider nest.
I'm going to be there eventually. I'm just picturing, like, in a Charlotte's Web-esque fashion, one of the Blighttown crag spiders just weaving salutations.
Some pig, crispy bacon.
Some long pig. Wait a minute. Chad Cross says
smorgasbord.
Right. And then Paul Lind is a rat king for some reason.
This whole
the humans really betrayed me.
It's like the Hollywood Square, Charlotte's Web area of Dark Souls 2.
I will once again remind people, when I am making that voice, I am making fun of Paul Lind, not gay people. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Chad Cross says via Facebook, the gutter really stressed me out. It's probably the first area where I attempted to light every sconce I could to explore without sacrificing a shield. I also fell quite a bit. I think that this is the first area where I realized how annoying verticality can become when a simple stack of logs in the shape of a stair step is insurmountable. Instead of just stepping up, I was forced to backtrack or explore alternative routes that often led me to repeat poor route selection. I love Black Gulch. The heartbeat music brought me back to Latria. The poison statues provided an interesting incentive to just, quote, try running through. And the giant worms and coal tar creatures provided a strong incentive to figure out how to deal with the statues. I first tried fire bombs and discovered a cool side effect, burning the tar pits. After wasting a ton of fire bombs destroying the statues and dying, I had to find an alternative. Try whip. No excuses are necessary to make a whip viable in this game.
Whip fast.
Whip fast. Yeah. What was the name of that book, Gary?
Let's Get Cracking.
Okay.
A Guide to Full Whips.
I've known the title of that book for a year, but it never ceases to be funny when I
if
hear
it
you say
ever like becomes 99 cents on Kindle, I'm going to buy it and read it. So,
and then you're going to be whip guy. That's going to be your Portland affectation.
I'd do it, man. I'll just get like one of those big, tall, awful bicycles and just whip around.
A penny farthing?
Yeah.
Give me Butterfield and a penny farthing?
Yeah.
Just whipping everything in sight.
That would look ridiculous. Like I am way too much. Like I've got the Karnov body type way too much for that. Like
Karnov body type.
The kind of guy that's Karnov in the bedroom and Karnov in the kitchen, if you know what I mean.
What's Robin say?
So on the just like one thing about that message, actually, on the note about verticality and foot-high walls being a thing in the Souls games, like. I'm really curious if Bloodborne will give us, since they're saying that it's going to be a little more actiony or a little more fast-paced, they're kind of ditching the shield and stuff. I'm curious if we're going to get some kind of functional vertical jump or like better climbing ability so that isn't really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Just little weird muse in there.
It might be the case. Like I tend to hand wave stuff like that, as like being okay. Like invisible walls and that kind of thing don't bother me that much because the developer could just put in real walls and it would be fine. Right. Like I understand that just this is where they want me to go, this is where I shouldn't go. It's a little bit obnoxious, but like the Matthew Matosis, who is a YouTuber, like his Dark Souls 2 criticism that's like an hour long spends a long time talking about that waist high wall in the Shrine of Winter that you can't get past. And it's like it's annoying. Like it's like okay, that doesn't really follow, but it doesn't ruin anything for me. Like he also spends exactly as much time talking about the red filter that's right before you see bosses, and he just hates it. Like it's this weird like proclivity that he has that is very, very odd. But
yeah. I haven't seen that particular that particular thing, but having just re-beaten the last giant today, it's a little bit weird that you see the red filter right before that when it is not explicitly an old one.
Yeah, it's just for boss cutscenes. Like the red filter isn't for old ones. It happens for the Pursuer too. It's anytime there's an intro cutscene.
Okay.
For the boss.
Moving on to Robin Gilmore, who had this to say on Facebook. Sorry, but the pit highlights why Dark Souls is a better game than Dark Souls 2. Sitting at the bottom of Blighttown, I remember feeling so lonely and desolate and wondering if I could ever escape. When I eventually reached the end of the tunnel, bliss. But in the pit, I could warp to Majula any old time and had 2 rings of life protection. The stakes were not high, and therefore it lacked the emotional resonance that only comes from feeling that sense of elation after despair. The combination of warping and infinitely repairable life rings, plus the pain of being invaded by horrendously overleveled trolls, really breaks this area for me in many ways.
Yeah, like fair enough. Like we talked a little bit about the decision to be able to warp bonfires and what that means and how it's kind of changed the design and philosophy of the game. And like the jury's kind of out on it. I understand like why people don't like it. I found like the bottom of Blighttown is all well and good, but like something that made me think of is that feeling of despair I got from the bottom of what is the name of the giant tree in Dark Souls 1?
Oh, the Great Hollow.
The Great Hollow. And I hated that. Like, yes, I felt despair and hated that I had to climb back out, but it was way, way, way annoying. Like, I will give something a little bit of credit for making a gameplay concession. Yeah. Like that is not always a bad thing. I'm not saying that Robin's saying it's always a bad thing, but I'm okay with it in that. Like, I do think that the pit or specifically, the gutter is a little, unsubstantial, like we said. Like, there's not that much to it. But, yeah.
I like them both for a lot for different reasons. But, now that I'm achieving some kind of distance from my first go through on Dark Souls 2. One thing I really miss is the idea of building, familiarity equity with certain areas, in terms of when there would be a shortcut that would kind of like slowly usher you back into something that like, oh, wait a minute, I'm seeing how all of this draws together.
Yeah.
And I can see that with Blighttown, because that's pretty far on a spoke, insofar as Dark Souls 1 has spokes before you can warp everywhere. And it's kind of like, yeah, that kind of does make you feel isolated and lonely, and that is something I really value in games. But yeah, so I can see that as a benefit to the Dark Souls 1 approach. But like, I can also like Dark Souls 2 for what it does in terms of convenience. Whether or not I like one better than the other, that's kind of up for later decision. But I can, like you, I can recognize what happens when you notice those those contrasts, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like it's good to, or it's well and fine to prefer something, but like it's not inherently bad that the sequel decides not to focus on that. Mm-hmm. Like they're going for something different. Yeah. Which, like, again, like the ultimate balance of that is going to come later. Yeah. What I ultimately think about that, but it doesn't inherently feel like a bad thing for them to try to make it about something different. Like the game is not trying to be about that feeling of desperation. Yeah. It's okay to like that better, but it's not a failure. It's a different intent, I feel like. Yeah.
I mean, and like maybe one possible conclusion you can make out of this, like Dark Souls 2 doesn't make it more of a game, but Dark Souls 2 definitely makes it more video gamey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Which might be what some people are reacting to.
Well, but, something about Dark Souls 1, I'm not as invested in the feeling of despair that you get from being stuck at the bottom of the Great Hollow and hating your life as I am so much in the moment when you get the Lord Vessel. I think I made a comment about this in season 1 of the show, but the moment when you get the Lord Vessel and you realize what it can do kind of reframes the way that you see the world in Dark Souls 1, and it almost serves as this sort of changeover from when the game becomes about being desperate and weak and not sure that you're ever going to finish, to having like kind of a sense of mastery over the world. Like once you beat Ornstein and Smough and you get the Lord Vessel, you've sort of made it in Dark Souls. Yeah. And that to me was both super awesome as a moment and was also very, like, it's video gamey in the sense that really what the Lord Vessel is an awesome power up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I agree with Robin at this point that I prefer Dark Souls. There are a lot of things I like about Dark Souls 2, but I'm waiting on that DLC before I draw a final conclusion, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody from is listening and knows how important this DLC is.
Yeah, my opinion's going to make or break it and I know that I'm very important to you as a consumer. So,
how crazy would it be if there was like a late era BioShock Vita Chambers patch that was like, okay, you can turn off bonfire warping until you get to the Shrine of Winter, which I say arbitrarily, knowing that would completely break a lot of the structure of the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could, it's like the thing with Vita Chambers is they happen automatically, whereas bonfires are like, there isn't a patch, but there is the achievement and the item you get for not using them. So it's like already if you don't want to use it, don't use it. And the game is, it is much harder, but the game does want you to be able to do that.
Well, but I also think doing that like kind of fundamentally changes it in the way, because then you can't level up, which in Dark Souls 1 you can level up at bonfires.
Well, you can still level up. You just have to walk back to the Herald every time you do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I'm saying basically it makes it harder than Dark Souls 1 ever was. If you
I got you. Yeah, because since the bonfires, have two purposes, and the idea. I mean, that's one of the biggest changes that feel like an anti-convenience feature. Like the only being able to level up at the Emerald Herald is something that like, I think I dislike. Like I understand a little bit what they're trying to go for with that, but it's not my favorite thing. Yeah. You're right though. Like that would be part of it. But if it was literally just turning off warping. Like you can turn off warping on your own if you want to. It's just
but it's like the Ring of Life protection. But it's there. I have to use
it. See, I never use the Ring of Life protection. Like I have no problem denying myself something like that. Like, yeah, I don't. I'm not trying to say this is like some kind of really bizarre dick measuring thing. This would be very specific. But like in video games, if there's something I don't like, I don't have a problem not using it. That is a weird thing. It's not a brag because who would be impressed by that? But like, it is true. Like if it's like, I don't really like that. Like I never really used a Ring of Life protection in Dark Souls 2, and it didn't bother me to not do it.
Yeah.
So. DJ Davis says via Facebook, and then this might dovetail very much into what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Robin pretty much said exactly what I would say. Being able to teleport in and out of the pit completely kills and destroys any amount of tension that the developers were trying to create. A poor imitation of the superior atmosphere and design of the Valley of Defilement and Blighttown. Also, what's up with those textures on the pillars that hang down? There are modern tires and furniture on them. It's like they forgot to put real textures on those things. Totally weird and out of place. I think we mostly addressed the kind of first point. Mm-hmm. The second point, that is crazy. It's like the Heineken bottle in
Heineken.
The Saints. Yeah. That is a problem.
Yeah, it seems like placeholder art because, like, even more so than just tires, there's also, like, modern-esque furniture in that.
Yeah.
Like, it feels a little bit like stuff that was included in the Unreal, Engine 3 toolkit.
What if the last DLC has your character entering the real world? Like, you walk out onto a city, and they're going real crazy with this time travel spacey waciness, and that's where all that stuff came from.
So it would be either like the Dark Tower or that episode of The Simpsons, The Treehouse of Horror, where he goes from Tron to Erotic Cake Land.
Controlling a Dark Souls character with Dark Souls kind of game feel, walking through like the streets of a Grand Theft Auto, like I'm interested in that. I would try it. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not trying to actually excuse it, but like that would be a real ballsy twist. And real stupid twist as well.
Yeah. It'd be a novelty is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed those mostly because of how just unneat the seaming is on that texture. Like, you can see where it cuts off as it tries to wrap around. You would think that if it was very well considered, they would have at least tried to make it, whole, because that is not something that is dynamic. They had complete control over that. They just kind of opted to make it look shitty. Yeah. What
if it's a function of the ambient lighting? Like, you were never supposed to really be able to make those out even with the torch, because if the whole kind of level of lighting went down, the torch would this would be even more hard to make out.
So when they raised the gamma, it was just kind of like, oh, they're never going to be able to see this except when we make everything lighter in service of this engine thing we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was something they couldn't fix in time. I could see that.
Yeah. No, I mean, not to excuse it.
The case.
Yeah, I mean, that could explain it. It's still poor, attention to detail, for sure. But I wanted that would kind of make sense. So.
Yeah. I forget, is this me?
Yes.
Why not? So, Jeremy Greer says via Facebook, Jeremy, hi Jeremy. I like that if you take a summon down to fight the giant, an extra one will appear. Stuff like that really makes me happy, and I wish that there was more of it. I also liked the gaming, finally, forcing you to use the torches in the pit, but the Gulch didn't do it for me. Although any area that houses my dear friend Dark Diver Grandal gets at least a few courtesy points. Can we instate that as official currency? Courtesy points?
Courtesy points.
Yeah. He continues, side note, invading the Gulch is hilarious because the poison statues shoot at you as well.
I did not know. So he's saying that if you go down there with a summon, there are 3 giants instead of 2?
Yeah, they do scale
Or the way
up.
he reads it, does it? Okay, because when he says when you summon to fight the giant, it almost makes it look like the first time he was down there, he had help and was surprised that there were 2 giants.
Yeah.
I did not realize that scaled up.
Yep.
That's confirmed?
Yeah, that's something that I've read on at least 2 wikis trying to confirm that. So, I mean, as confirmed as that can be, that is something that checks out.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah. So, like, as a mini-boss-esque encounter, like the Pursuer on the roof of the Forest of Fallen Giants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. Good, yeah. And my brother in the dark, Jeremy Greer, Dark Dival Grandal.
Yeah.
Every day I'm dark diving.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that with this Hexcaster I can finally, conquer that. But
yeah, join our brotherhood, man.
Yeah, I know. I tried.
Once you go hexes, you won't go back.
No, I tried real hard. And I'm on my way. I've got.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm 2020, man. I'm 2020.
Yep. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
You won't put you don't need to put stats on other things.
Nope.
Hexes are so good. Yeah, I think this is Viv.
Yes, this is me. This is Matthew Maupin, I probably pronounced that wrong, via Facebook. The Gutter was a strange experience for me. I played through it with the game audio all but muted while listening to an old WAF episode. Hey, look at that cross-promotion.
Hey.
It's got a clip for you guys here.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew.
So I can't comment on sound design. All I can really remember is that I fell down somewhere I wasn't supposed to and landed on a platform out of sequence. The Black Gulch wasn't much better, though it is one of the few places in the game that made me glad I was rolling a magic-based character. Turns out that the basic soul arrow can break those stupid statues just as easily as a sword or a mace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dark Souls, after you go through the first time, it becomes a really great podcast game.
Yeah.
Like, I will listen to a podcast while ham jamming on some Dark Souls too, for sure.
I'm sorry. Did you just add ham jamming to that lexicon?
Yeah, ham jamming. That's what you're doing. There's grab nabbing and ham jamming. You're playing a game.
Okay, cool.
Just
No,
ham
it's fine. I
jamming.
just want to make sure I'm catching up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's cram jamming, but this specifically involves pork products.
Yeah, this is yeah, and strip jamming and jam and cream, all things that happen. Cream Jam in USA,
It's
2007.
it's part of a rich oral history.
Yeah,
And by oral,
There we-
I mean the place in which those are crammed or jammed.
yeah. There we go. If we're still looking for a one-off T-shirt for this month, Cream Jam in USA 2007.
No, we already know what the one-off T-shirt's going to be.
Okay, I thought we didn't know what the postcard was going to be.
Oh, the postcard, yeah, but we can't do. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I know
All
what the T-shirt's going to be. The postcard, I've got something in the works, but
Okay.
I don't know. Visit patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv to find out more.
Yeah, what are we talking about? There are many months in the year. Cream
Yes,
Jam
there-
in USA will become a thing. I hope Brian Wade gets it.
I just picture you like a dude on a surfboard on a wave of cream.
Yeah, iced cream.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Emily Bracken says via Facebook. Is this me? It doesn't matter.
It
Yes.
really does not.
Go. Take it.
I love the noxious Technicolor dream world atmosphere of Black Gulch. I noticed on my last run through the gutter that the ambient heartbeat was coming from the poison-spitting statues. If you destroy all the nearby statues, the sound stops. I guess this is why the sound becomes louder and more pervasive in the Black Gulch. But what do you think that means that the statues have heartbeats? I wonder if this is yet another example of puppetry, inanimate objects being imbued with souls.
That's pretty
All right.
great. So
Yeah, good comment.
I didn't bring that up in the episode because I didn't have enough time to edit this response before we went into it. So yeah, that's great. I love the idea of each individual statue having a very quiet heartbeat, but when enough of them are in a place, it being much louder, as though they were all in sync with one heartbeat. You know, as though they were sharing the same dream. Right.
Yeah, just two hearts.
Yeah.
The beat is one. The Queens of Hearts is what we call these guys.
And
I like that a lot.
Yeah. I like that being another example of the puppetry too, because I see that as another one of the kind of through lines in the game that is sort of underexplored by people in their first impressions of the lore and stuff. It's something that shows up in a lot of different areas pertaining to a lot of characters, and there's probably something there. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the closest analog we have in terms of statues that make sound is the laughing curse pots, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, the introduction to the game in that intro movie, the way that it depicts your character being hollowed, you have this like hollow space on your back, like one of those puppets almost. It's
yeah,
Interesting.
much more to think about.
Indeed. All right.
And
Close us out, Cole.
I will take us out with Andrew Frost, who writes in via Facebook. Thank you, everybody, for coming out for us on the Facebook. Holy shit. He says, the first time through the gutter was horrible. It was dark with floors that gave way, and enemies that seemed to come from nowhere. It really brought out the fear in me. The second time through, it made me realize that there really was not that much to fear. You know, with how simple it was.
Sure. Yeah. When somebody says bring out the fear in you, doesn't, like, that instantly makes me think of, like, you know, somebody saying that in a threatening way to somebody, like a Deliverance style, like,
it's like
bring out the fear in you.
It's like the Scarecrow, right? Like, that's his ultimate goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that speaks to, you know, a bunch of the Dark Souls stuff, which is knowledge contract space, which is one of the major theses that we have on this network, right? Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Andrew.
All right. Yeah. And thanks to everybody for commenting. How can people comment if they have things to say about the shady, misty, ruiny woods?
The shady, misty, ruiny woods. Oh, well, the primary space is to go to Duckfeed.tv/contact, pick Bonfireside Chat from the drop-down menu, and that gets into the system. Also, you can go to Facebook.com/Bonfireside Chat. By the time you're hearing this, there is probably or will soon be a topic about this very line of thought, I guess. I just wanted to avoid saying topic again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Area. Thanks everybody for that. Vivian, thanks for sticking around again.
Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure, guys.
Yeah. I'll have to wait and see what kind of shitberg is in Bloodborne so we can have you back. For the most garbage
area where your character just commits suicide when you step there.
Like over and over, yeah. Like when you escape from the prison through like a literal river of feces. We'll have you come by and talk about that.
Shawshank Redemption level of,
yeah.
Time was.
Yeah. Indeed.
That's all I've got.
So we'll just there's been a long appendix. Mm-hmm. You can do the usual stuff. We mentioned the Patreon, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. It's a huge help if you can come there and kick us a couple bucks. Ratings, reviews on iTunes, listen to the other shows on the network. And that was probably good. We got some deleted scenes for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for listening and check them out.
Lest this land swallow you whole.
Umbasa.
Thank you.
Umbasa.
Bo. Nico and Vince.
Enchante.
That's the stuff.
It's like listening to a tune that doesn't resolve. I've got here. I'll be right back. I'm going to do an audio thing.
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds.
Gonna drop your keyboard? I think Gary might literally be listening to some audio on his own to soothe himself.
It's just some way to relax, to unwind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Or he might just be playing those 2 notes from Fur Release over and over again because it drives me insane.
No, I'm going to do this instead. Here, listen. All right, ready?
Oh my God, what are you doing?
I'm hitting a plush Mario turtle shell.
Oh, okay.
But I've left it before it resolves.
Okay, cool.
So when you do the I hate it. I know it's like
that's something that would be at Nerd Guantanamo. Thank you. There we go.
Isn't it hard? It's just rough, man.
Huh. Man, oh man.
Oh God.
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick.
Okay. Are you cool sticking around to do responses, Vivian?
Yeah, sure. I will do the same thing. Just.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. You can
definitely get it out of the way.
Only regular hosts get privileges.
Yeah, get it out of the way. I might have to pee later, so I figure I'll nab this now.
You just gotta try.
Yeah.
Road trips. Am I right? BRB.
Yeah. All right. Success.
I think my problem with writing something, with going through with this book idea or something, is just that I don't want to end up being. Have you read this Forbes article? That's titled Dark Souls 2, like why Dark Souls 2 is the worst game I've ever played, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy.
No. Well, it's probably not the worst game you ever played. So there's one simple way not to be that guy.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think I write like a crazy person or speak like a crazy person, so that's...
You got two strikes in your favor.
I I feel terrible if that guy is someone you've got lined up to host this season or something. I don't know who that guy is off the top of my head. It could be a Souls luminary.
Yeah, and that would be an awkward episode. That's always my greatest fear. Like, it hasn't quite happened, but there's been a couple times where we've had people on where I felt like the fit was a little bit weird. And that would be my greatest fear, is just have somebody who's like super, super, you know, like, I don't think anyone's going to be mean. In my experience, like, people aren't actually cruel, but they could be, you know, just fit in a real bad way.
Have you ever listened to the Jordan Jesse Go episode with the Penny Arcade guys on it?
I have, and I really disliked it, you know, but I listened to it because it was like, who do I hate more? Like,
It
who I dislike more?
It is a fantastic piece of audio.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Just nerd awkwardness
and it's so hard for me. It's one of those things where it's like the enemy of my enemy kind of thing, because like listening to it, I got to think like, oh, you know what? Like, I think Jordan and Jesse are like really kind of in the right here, even though that pains me to say it.
That is a very strange thing to come back to hear you saying out of context.
Right? Wouldn't it work in like as like a clickbait headline? Like, you wouldn't believe why Gary
like
Butterfield thought Jordan Morris and Jesse Thorne were somehow in the right. Because I never think that. But if you listen, Viv was bringing up, did you listen to the episode they did with the Penny Arcade guys?
Where they straight up just like left?
Yeah, it is very awkward.
Yeah. I mean, like, what happens when an unstoppable object meets an immovable force,
an
right?
Intolerable force.
Yeah.
What happens when an unpleasant object meets an intolerable force?
Yeah. Like, you know. And I say this as a person who had my phase of Penny Arcade fandom and listening to their podcasts and such, and still mildly tolerates Jesse Thorne on Judge John Hodgman, right? Like, I listened to it and I was like, yeah, you know what? Somebody's probably right here, but I'm not happy either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that's infamous because the Penny Arcade guys, they did a comic strip about it, right? Where they supposed that Jesse Thorne would decapitate them and freeze their heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a giant page thing that they ranted about it, and about how, like, everything that Jordan and Jesse represent is like the epitome of what's wrong with contemporary society, and then like they never published the episode of the podcast for a long time apparently.
Yeah.
And then sort of went back and published it, and they were like, this sucks, but we're putting it up anyway because we think there's unintentional humor in it or something like that. So
yeah. Which, like, to me was just a strong way to like misunderstand what not to like about those guys. Mm-hmm. Like, who are like, you know, I'm sure they're good guys. Like, take that part. Like, I met my girlfriend is a Maximum Fun fan, and I met Jordan Morris, who's like a super nice dude.
I hear he's
like,
incredibly like deferential. Like, he's very gregarious. Like, he will be diplomatic with you no matter what.
Yeah, like he is a fine human being. Like, I don't, none of this stuff is personal. It's just like his output is not to my taste. Mm-hmm. But if you were gonna not like something like that, that's the exact like just immature, terrible way to go. Like, oh, he's gonna be a serial killer because he was wearing a bow tie and had like it was just fucking stupid. Whereas like you could have come away from it being like, you know what, that's not for us, because this kind of new sincerity, like they're over gregariousness, like things that like I don't like about them, you can recognize and poke fun at, without being hyperbolic and like the Penny Arcade guys. Mm-hmm. So anytime you can not be like the Penny Arcade guys, I'm in favor. So, don't do what they do.
You came across a fork in a path in a snowy woods, and I decided that I would go the road less Penny Arcade traveled.
Yep. Anywhere they're not.
Yeah. I'm gonna get mad at video games. That's the one I picked.
Those guys. It's been a little while since we've ranted about those guys on the show. Thanks, Viv.
Which one's Penny Arcade or
Penny Arcade? Like we haven't really ranted about the Max Fun stuff. Like I think that we both just kind of don't like it, but we're reasonable human beings about it.
Yeah, I mean,
but, Mm-hmm.
My brother and me is good though.
Yeah, I mean, there's good shows on the network, and there's tons of good people involved. Mm-hmm. Like they're, same thing with like Nerdist. Like I don't really like those podcasts, but there's people who are in there that I don't like Chris Hardwick, but I like people who are involved.
God. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a very good comparison.
Yeah, like I think that he is a black hole from which charisma cannot escape. Mm-hmm. And I think that he is a non-additive presence to everything he does. Like, I would call him the Doug Benson of podcast if that title wasn't already taken.
If that wasn't already.
Yeah, he just doesn't add very much, but like he doesn't. There are tons of people where I think like I love Todd Glass. Todd Glass is on there all the time. Mm-hmm. For his show is it just it's not that big a deal. Getting mad at podcasts is like being mad at video games. I think.
Yeah.
Enchante.
Call.
Is that pup? Donut pup.
That's a puppy.
Mm-hmm. Real good puppy.
Hello?
Hello?
Good. That's a good
Hey.
puppy you got us like.
It's a puppy.
Good puppy.
These faces.
Donut puppy.
He's very determined.
Yeah. He loves donuts as well. How's it going, man?
All right, I guess. I had just gotten back. I'm kind of glad that you guys started a little late because, like, I had just gotten back from the grocery store. I thought that we were starting at, like, 8 my time because for some reason I thought Ohio was an hour behind the East Coast.
Nope.
It's because I'm bad at time zones. So.
But by all rights, we ought to be. If I travel 10 miles to the west, then I am in a different time zone. So that is an okay misconception to have.
Can you imagine if time zones were done on instead of the demarcated by hours, if they were a gradient across the United States? So like literally, you were like 2 hours and 45 minutes, behind me, and then Vivian was like 4 hours and 22 minutes.
That's kind of a thing, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not perfectly aligned along like parallels.
Oh, but there is a new. I mean, I don't know how new it is. I think it probably popped up like in the 70s or so. But there is a certain designation of time, which is kind of like metric time, that is meant to be expressed only in without regard. So it's always the same place everywhere. It's just the way, or it's always the same number at every point around the globe. It just changes, what time the sun rises and sets in your area. So that noon and midnight don't always fall at the same kind of time.
I think I understood what you mean, but you did it. That was a terrible job explaining that.
Sorry. I
it's okay. Like,
yeah.
just like if we get a chance and this shows up in the bonus one, re-listen to that and see if put yourself in a strange.
Definitely. I also have a very poor understanding of it, so that is probably the best I could do to explain it.
Because it's a dumb idea.
Yeah, well, it's terrible. Yeah. Like there was some it was a big thing when the internet started getting popular. Just in terms of we're no longer bound by things taking, days to get places. So we need to have a way to make this all kind of work. Which, if that's the case, then just make it, it's just Greenwich Mean Time all the time. You don't have to have a, crazy new number system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there was like an MMO that used it, and it popped up a couple of places like that. But, yeah. This is something I deal with on a daily basis. Time zone kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the specific time zone.
No. I mean, just in terms of, clients in Malaysia and clients in Australia and all these kind of things. Do you observe daylight saving times? Yes or no? I get real weird when I say PST instead of PDT or otherwise, because that means different things to different people. And that is a very real, we just missed each other by an hour.
Or PTSD.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay, we're going to have this meeting at 11 o'clock PTSD, so we'll be shivering in a corner, screaming the horror.
Eventually. It reminds me of calendar reform, which is one of those weird ideas that will never take off.
Yeah.
Enchante.
I was hoping to spend 6 hours bumblefucking around with the Dark Soul track. Or the Dark Sign.
Bumblefucking. Just bumblefucking.
Just walking around in a bee costume?
Yeah.
Except instead of a stinger,
what up,
it's
needle
a
dick
dick.
bug fucker? You gonna get with this queen bee? Suck up this royal jelly? Do it. Bumblefuck.
So, I mean, the game does have a poison moth costume in
Yes, it does.
Frighteningly close.
You can be a bumblefucker in Dark Souls 2 Machinima.
In my 42 chapter fanfic. Fanfic.gov. Yeah. That's
Yeah. Seriously, guys, if you had the chance, would you guys have sex with a bee? Just throwing it out there.
I'm terrified of bees.
Yeah, I don't know if I would either.
Yeah.
Just saying it.
I mean, it's one of those few fear. It's a very pure fear because it is being afraid of something that can directly hurt you. Like it is ingrained in you as a child. Like, and it's not always reasonable, but like, oh, freak out, like, it's a bee, like you see kids doing. But I think that as an adult, a full-grown adult has every right to be afraid of a bee. Because it is an irritant and an inconvenience, and I do not want to have my dick anywhere near it.
And the kind of bees that are really shitty, like wasps and stuff, don't really seem to have much of a beneficial purpose either. The honeybee is... Yeah, much of a sex drive either.
Yeah, but they're so
they're
svelte.
just all anger.
Yeah, they're so skinny. Just they're those wasps are out there strutting their stuff, setting an unrealistic expectation for the honeybees out there. I mean, let alone the bumblebees.
I'm more of a bumblebee man, personally.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be, like, hate fucked by a wasp.
Just real stodgy, like, just really wants to set up in suburbia and, just kind of like an I got mine kind of thing. Those
like a frumpy house bumble.
Like a frumpy house wasp.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah. I don't know, you want a little bit more adventure in your life.
Like a humble indie bumble. That's what I want.
Yeah. Also, bees were kind of ruined for me because in the lead up to the release of Bee Movie, Jerry Seinfeld's like first press junket after the end of that show that he did called Seinfeld, going out and like just saying, well, you see, the bees are altruistic, like like this passion project of his being sparked by a genuine interest that a comedian has in an insect, and him trying to relate this to Jay Leno. It just killed any and all enthusiasm I could have had.
For fucking a bee.
Yeah, for fucking...
Like, previous to that.
Yeah. What's the deal with altruism? And dancing, am I right?
That's, like, topical. Isn't that movie about, like, Jerry Seinfeld as a bee is moving in on a human lady? It's got a weird sexual... Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's like a weird... It was right around the time of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. We had just elected an all-Democratic Congress, or Democratic majority, and we were ready for some change, and then just interspecies sex. Go. Yeah. Also, it doesn't make sense because he has a stinger, and male bees don't have stingers.
Yeah. Huh. Burn.
Check your facts,
Sick
Mr.
burn.
Check your facts, Jerry.
I was thinking more that you were doing a sick burn on male bees. Take that. No stingers.
Yeah.
The way to unfairly gender bees, Cole.
I know. I mean,
yeah, I know. Maybe.
Am I being normative?
Yeah. Be normative. It's like a terrible campaign about like having a stinger only if you have the correct like gendered parts, like in some kind of horrible dystopia. Be normative.
Wow. How about that Something Awful forum outage?
I was actually like, when I saw that it came back, I was actually a little disappointed because, as weird as that sounds, I was kind of hoping something like monumental would happen, like Lotax would announce that he was just done, or something that would otherwise generate like drama and amusement would occur, rather than just going back to the status quo and stuff. I'm honestly a little disappointed that it's back.
What was funny, and I had to catch myself multiple times, is when it was back, I was like, "Oh man, the forums are back! I've got like 5 weeks of." It was like 2 days, but I've got like 5 weeks of things to catch up with. But no, like they couldn't post either. So yeah, I just went. It was exactly like I left it. It was like a forum trapped in amber.
Yeah, it's like Timequake is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all just here again.
I was astounded and a little embarrassed by how many people, like some of the threads that I post in, I clicked on them like the day that the forums came back up, and there were already 50 new posts, and I was like, oh geez, like this is
like
so many people have been sitting there like hitting F5 the entire time the forums have been down.
Well, it's weird. Like, how when your power goes out and you just kind of can't stop yourself from muscle memory going for a light switch? Like, I would do that just opening up the Awful app on my phone. Just like in an idle moment, like, oh, I wonder if yep, nope, can't happen. And then that's how I discovered that it was back on.
Yeah.
Because I was following Lotax on Twitter. So it's like, oh, like, I should probably be mindful about what this says about me. But then, I'll just go back to...
Yeah. You go where I dare not tread on the Something Awful forums, correct, Vivian? Like, I feel like you spend some time in, debate and discussion and such.
Not really. I think I go where you dare not tread in places that are far less intellectual or just like faux intellectual than that. I posted a lot in YCS. A lot of my post count is from that.
Okay.
From Banished, and then I post, like right now I've been posting in that incredibly terrible gamers.txt thread that has just turned into...
Yeah, that outgrew my ability to keep up with it.
It's not what it's supposed to be anymore. It's just goons being petty weirdos at each other now.
Yeah.
And for some reason I can thrive in those environments.
Huh. But it's back. Our long national nightmare is over.
Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Do you want to get started, everybody?
We can do so. Did you just call me Air Buddy?
Everybody?
Everybody.
Oh, everybody.
Yeah.
My little buddy, my Air Buddy. What does that mean?
It means you perform sports for my amusement. There's no rule that says you can't do it.
Yeah.
Famous volleyball dog, Gary Butterfield is.
I'd be a badminton dog if I'd be anything.
Oh.
Hold the racket like Sif. Smack around on the shuttlecock.
Just paddle it around. What's that game where you have the two balls that are connected by a rope and you throw it at a ladder like thing?
Oh,
that's pretty fun.
Like toss stick or
toss
ladder
swing.
Ball.
Ladder ball.
Yeah, ladder ball. Yeah.
I'd be the dog of that.
Fucking toss games.
Yeah, Midwest.
Hate toss games.
Oh.
The my first exposure to Toss Hole, which is the main toss game.
You mean cornhole?
I don't care.
Yeah.
But they were like these jabronis out behind my apartment playing it, tossing holes, and just like all night long, joylessly, like just the rhythm of like beanbag hit. And like no one was wooing, no one was talking to each other, just like they were practicing for a tournament or something. Just walking back and forth, just toss holing all night right outside my window.
Yeah.
Fucking toss holes.
Yeah, the best toss game is the one that you abandon halfway through because you're talking in the middle of it.
Yeah, or you go play a real game.
Well, I mean,
real sports like football.
I mean, of the pantheon of games that you can play with a beverage in the other hand.
I think I'm always going to go, like, I think the best toss game is probably horseshoes.
Oh, yeah, horseshoes is
classic.
Yeah.
No? Not.
I mean, for a toss game, that's a race.
We're grading on a curve.
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, nothing can be lawn darts, right? Or jarts.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not since the government happened.
Yeah.
I feel like there have to have been horseshoe-related fatalities, too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Not just lawn dart-related ones.
Yeah. Not least of which to horses.
Like getting all infected.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the horseshoe lobby was powerful enough to keep them legal, whereas the jarts lobby, up and coming, they represented a political minority, and they got squashed.
Yeah. Yeah, now you can start on the squash lobby.
The squash lobby.
The League of Non-Sport Sports. Just represent.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon